Our third and final witness will be Mr. Rihards Kols, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Saima, the Parliament of Latvia. Welcome, Mr. Chairman, and we're delighted to hear from you.
Thank you, Honourable Senator Vicker, Honourable Senator Cardin, distinguished members of Helsinki Commission. As a concluding intervention, I think I have the task, the most challenging, which is to describe the threats that are vague and blurred, and those are the hybrid threats and the hybrid warfare that the Baltic countries have been experiencing since regaining our independence. So, to start with, the Russian General Valery Gerasimov once said, "The role of non-military means of achieving political and strategic goals has grown, and in many cases they have exceeded the power of force of weapons in their effectiveness." This encompasses the majority of what I will be addressing you today. Since regaining our independence from the Soviet Union in 1990, the Baltics have been under constant Russian pressure. For us, having lived in this environment for the majority of their lives, this multi-vector warfare, hybrid warfare tactics, and the chaos they attempt to create have become intuitively recognizable and often seep into the background like white noise. A key aspect to understanding Russia's actions is the so-called sootcheственniki, or compatriots abroad policy. Its officially stated goal is to support Russian living abroad, including defending their interests and rights in their place of residence. In this context, it needs to be emphasized that Moscow, per its compatriots abroad policy and the concept of the Russian world, aims to bind together all Russian speakers, not just ethnic Russians, but quite literally, even the descendants of ancestors who could have had a connection to, say, Tsarist Russia. It considers these minorities as an essential political means of exerting influence. In past regional wars, Moscow has argued that it must protect Russians' compatriots. In this Russian world, Putin's Russia anoints itself with the messianic title of the vanquisher of absolute evil, and within the right to fight against what it considers fascism. Russia has weaponized information for a very long time, with it targeting not only Russian speakers, but also what it deems as its geopolitical opposition, the West too, spreading disinformation and building up twisted narratives aimed at furthering support for its political goals. It seeks to destabilize societies, and it does so also via its export of corrupt practices by abusing Western legal and financial loopholes. Russian doctrine argues that corrupting another country's elites is part of new generation war. The Russian brand of corruption thrives on globalization and depends on access to the global financial systems to loot its own or other states' funds and assets. The West, however, has several advantages: time, allies, and transparency. Transparency is a potentially devastating tool against authoritarians because when corruption is exposed, it delegitimizes the authoritarians. The governments of free societies already face public scrutiny, which positions them well to demand the same of others. Russia's leaders are afraid of accountability. Therefore, it is time for the West to realize that corruption is a severe security issue. The Baltic states have a lot of first-hand experience tackling hybrid threats that previously had not been tackled by democratic countries at all, such as the recent Latvian, Lithuanian, and Polish experience with illegal migrants sent in from Belarus. Although these dangers were somewhat unexpected, the answer continues to be efficient. Therefore, we in the Baltics see ourselves not only as learners in the field, but also as providers of expertise. The Baltic cyber expertise has already benefited democratic countries across the globe. And the same work should continue with border incidents and issues such as countering disinformation and cleaning up financial markets from Russian money streams. A critical issue is Russia's weaponization of its energy exports via its state-owned companies, such as Gazprom. Russia has attempted to varying degrees of success to use energy exports as a bargaining chip in achieving its political goals. Thus, one of the ways of resisting aggression and strengthening our resilience is the 3 Seas initiative, a new forge of unity between nations in the Adriatic, Baltic, and Black Sea regions, integrating the North-South axis. It is platformed pragmatic collaboration to create a network of cooperation possibilities for 12 countries of the Central and Eastern European region. It seeks to promote large-scale infrastructural, digital, and energy-related investments that are highly needed in this geographic area, as the region still faces underdevelopment challenges, mainly in infrastructure, interconnectivity, and mobility, following 50 years of Soviet occupation and its lasting negative setbacks after the USSR's collapse. 3Cs would help maintain stability and democracy in countries that the Western countries formally describe as peripheral. But we are not peripheral. We are the frontier where democracy in the entire Western world has to stand or fall. A more robust economic US presence in the region would strengthen transatlantic business, energy, and geopolitical ties to Central and Eastern Europe, while compensating China's and Russia's initiatives and actions to advance and make regional inroads. Accordingly, the 3Cs merits, in our opinion, American continued political support and investment from across the transatlantic communities. Dear colleagues, for NATO and Europe, this will be a marathon, not a sprint. We cannot afford to be cavalier about our short-term responses, but must do everything in strategic, organized, conscious, and prepared manner. This should not be mistaken for the lack of resolve and determination to act, but it takes time. Russia spent months building up its forces on the borders of Ukraine. Hybrid threats are often aimed at the most vulnerable points of a state. Thus, supporting a well-educated and informed society using the means acceptable to them is a fundamental step in countering hybrid threats. Well-educated and informed societies will be the most resilient force against attempts of historical revisionism, revanchism, and sowing discord. To conclude, for those who worry that standing up to Russia could just provoke Putin and drag the world into war, we only have to look at the history of the 20th century. Nothing is more provocative to a dictator than the weakness of free nations. Acta non verba. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said, Mr. Chairman, and very well stated by all three of you.